All right, so let's now shift gears here to. Let me make sure the volume is up. Wouldn't want to miss this opportunity to see our first student of the game dance of the year.
Oh, for Christ.
Floating head doctor, Kyle.
I freaking love it. It's so
He
good.
talks over the fucking dance, Jim. He's so excited about the dance that he's fake jerking people off, and he's still.
Well, I mean, that's we just have to deal with it.
It's also Jim's favorite president.
Jesus Christ.
So, yeah, something like that.
And Matt
I'm not you, EJ. I'm not you. All right, let's take a look.
Look right.
And remember, look to the right side of the screen first. EJ, who was your bottom five?
All right, for the podcast listeners, we got 32 the Patriots, 31 the Panthers, 30 Dolphins, 29 Titans, and 28 newbie in the list now, the Browns.
You should have had the Browns there before.
Thank
you. Well, we can't fix last week though. We
Deshaun Watson, comeback player of the year.
Hey Jim, guess what? We move forward. Thank you.
Well, we're trying to, but some people want to keep moving us backwards.
This guy,
he's also trying to conveniently realize once again how right I was about his Jags 32 placement being absolutely stupid, but that's okay.
Brown should be lower.
Okay.
Lower
than the Titans, lower than the Dolphins, lower than how low?
So definitely lower than the Dolphins.
Yeah, I think they should be. I think they should be in the bottom two.
Okay.
That team is bad.
Oof.
And they are giving up. It looks like they're giving up on a lot of things.
Michael, what's wrong?
They can't make a quarterback change because they're in close to what was at one point record contract numbers with him.
Mm-hmm.
You have a coach that's handcuffed to a quarterback that is awful and nowhere near his 2020 form. Staring at EJ.
Calm down, Jim.
Yeah,
Super Bowl contenders. Woo!
Quick sidebar though, Jim, real quick.
Yeah.
Should the Browns bench him?
Yes,
they should.
Jameis Winston gives them a better shot of winning.
Yeah, they absolutely should. I think Watson is 100% cooked. Whether it's physical, mental, he can't handle the pressure of the environment that he created. All of the above, he's done. There's no recovery from this.
Yeah,
I mean, I reported it on this show, I think, first when he first came out to booze in Jacksonville, of all places, when I covered the preseason game at Everbank Stadium 2 off seasons ago. And he was affected. I could tell from all the way up in the press box. As dumb as it sounds, yes, I could tell.
Embrace the heel, buddy. Embrace the heel. Didn't do that.
Apparently, I don't know that he's capable of doing that, EJ.
It's too late now.
Sure.
So anyway, Matt, any problem with my bottom five?
Not with beyond the Browns being too high. I'd say that's it.
Are we rewarding the Dolphins for the insignificant win? Is that why they're 30?
Rewarding? They're still the same spot they were last week. They didn't move.
Right. Well, because they're bad. They.
Yeah, I mean they're still on the bottom in my bottom five, but
yeah.
I don't think they're worse than the Browns.
Yeah,
and they have the injury excuse.
Right, that's true.
The Browns don't.
Yeah, that's fair, isn't it, Matt?
We get Tua back in 2 weeks, I think. Allegedly.
I think
for what 7 snaps till he gets the next concussion?
Well,
yeah.
Then we're back to Skylar Thompson.
By the way, Kevin, make sure you get mad at him and wish he falls out of a chair. All I stated was a fact, anyways. But
Evan, I can't wait for Kyle to fall off the chair one of these weeks. I will die laughing.
It's the previous comment too.
Evan,
so goddamn.
Which comment was it?
He says I made a Tua comment. All I did was say was that Josh Allen's concussion situation wasn't Tua bad, which is a fact.
Yeah, right. Like it's not making fun of him. It's a reality.
You know, I make fun of Tom Brady for a lot of things, but because I call the hitting the quarterback below the legs the Brady rule doesn't mean I'm disrespecting Tom Brady.
Hey, Kyle, be nice. Dolphins going through right now. Be nice.
Bro, I had to write the tanking for 2 a year. This ain't shit. Okay. Anyway,
All right, EJ, give us your top 10.
Top 10. Here we go. Number 10, the Buccaneers. 9, the Packers. 8, the Niners. 7, the Bills. 6, Commanders. 5, Texans. 4, Lions. 3, Ravens. 2, Vikings. 1, Chiefs. Top 4 still the same as last week.
All right, who wants to go at it first?
Michael, see that face?
sell me the Buccaneers at 10.
So last week they were, I believe, 8.
And they lost.
Yeah, they lost. I know. And honestly, they gave away the game to Atlanta. They should have won that game. That's
500-yard throwing thug.
Yeah, they gave the game away, dude.
The Falcons 10. Period. Point blank. End of story. You blew it. You just admitted it on the air. Thank you. Carry on.
Kyle, let me ask you a question. Who? Okay, if not them at 10, who?
I just literally fucking said it, asshat.
What'd you say?
Panel?
He said the Atlanta Falcons.
No,
but
no.
I mean, buddy, hold on. You're saying
Dude,
fuck no,
I'm
the 49ers at 8?
Thank you.
I'm playing
You have the
I'm playing
49ers at 8.
I'm playing a long game on Niners, man. But if they lose,
Buddy,
on Thursday,
championship pedigree, my ass.
This is your power rankings for the week. You can put them back in the top 10 when they start winning games.
But the long term also plays a factor in this too. Also, like I said,
we know you vaulted the Ravens from unranked.
Long term, they're not going to have Christian McCaffrey back for the long term. Like, what are we doing here?
The back is not that bad though. Was it Jordan? Who's his name? Jordan.
That'd be Jordan Mason. Glad you know their team. You have them at 8 in your
Okay,
power
so
rankings.
hold on.
Yeah. That's first name, right? It's pretty good.
That Jordan's so and so. He's good.
I mean, Jordan.
My guy, if they didn't play the Patriots, they could be 1-4 right now. Like, you understand that, right?
I understand that.
No, I don't think you do.
I do.
I
disagree with you, but
you have them at number 8.
You understand that they're
like over a team, reminding the listening audience that you have in the NFC title game with your cheesy fucking green toes down on the ground.
Let me ask a question. If the Niners were at 10, would you be bothered by that, or should they be in the top 10?
I would be bothered by that because they
should
should be in the top 10.
be ranked.
So outside of Niners, anything else on this list? And the Bucks, well, call it the Bucks probably.
Honestly, I don't think the Packers are a top 10 team right now either.
Ooh.
I'm not going to go there. You and I already had that lightsaber duel burn, which you clearly, obviously lost. I'm joking.
On what?
But here's what I will give you. I will compliment you that you were brave enough to put the Commanders this high. You're crazy, but I love the bravery. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And you buying into the power vacuum. And it's great. But in the event that they lose to the Eagles or the Cowboys, I think they play the Eagles first. I'm not sure. I expect them to be punished.
Of course.
And if they lose to either of those teams,
they're getting the benefit of the environment too, also on top of that. So
yeah, I'm also kind of confused why you have the Ravens above the Texans.
Well, that was the case also 2 weeks ago. Oh, last week as well too. So
where they went from being unranked to being the number 3 team, so that Chiefs
Correct.
number 1 would look good to the committee.
Right. Last week was the big overreaction.
The Ravens should not have ever been unranked. I think that's the obvious error here. Okay, let's not go crazy. I'll answer I'll answer your question this way, Matt, because EJ clearly can't coherently debate.
I don't debate, but I conversate.
Well, you fail is what you do.
Pass on that.
So that being said, by the way, conversate, not a
I made it up.
The Texans are flawed, but they still keep sneaking past teams, right? EJ made the statement on his show that the Bills are a statement win. I'm not even convinced of that. They needed Mahomesian antics to slip in a last-minute field goal to beat the Bills with a Josh Allen that went 9-30. They have the player on their team that is the most penalized in the NFL, and they're among the highest team in penalty yards allowed. But they keep winning because they keep playing teams that hand them the fucking chance to win back. The one team that didn't, in the form of the Vikings, they got smashed. They should have lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars, for example. Like, This is why I feel like the Texans should be lower than the Ravens, but apparently there's something in there where because CJ Stroud, because Stephon Diggs, because Nico Collins, Christ, I don't know, but hubba, money, who does he trust? And apparently the
I
Texans.
just feel like we're not punishing the Ravens enough for that loss to the Vegas Raiders.
And well, that's how many weeks ago now?
That's
But
right too.
still, I mean, they should have lost to the Bengals.
They did get punished though that week because when they got punished, they got knocked out of the top 10 immediately after that as a result.
Yes, Ernest. But 2 weeks later, after beating a team who has 1 win and a team that's got 2 wins, you vaulted them to 3.
God help you if it involved a pass interference too.
I guess the team that was unbeaten that we all say Buffalo was the real deal, and then they crushed them. So yeah.
Cool. But the Lions are better than them. The Texans are better than them.
Okay.
The 49ers are better than them.
Okay, Michael, hold on. Jim, reveal.
Well, hold on.
No, sir. You don't get to just sit here and just push this off because you don't want to have to defend yourself. Ain't happening, Stone Cold.
Here's my popcorn. Holy shit.
The fact of the matter is you sit here and you talk about the Baltimore Ravens, a team that Lamar Demetrius Jackson fumbled the football in overtime, should have lost the game, that their defense did not even show up for. And you're going to sit here and tell me, I trust them more than I trust Man Campbell and Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. You've lost your mind. This team is not the Baltimore Ravens.
I'll make you a
of
deal,
the
there, buddy.
2010s.
I'll make you a deal, Michael.
Don't make me a deal.
3-8-3-B.
Do better. I'm going to pull up.
No.
3-8-3-B.
Pass.
Jim,
Pass.
3-8-3-B.
You
No,
hit.
look. I
Pass.
made the mistake of letting you do that one time.
2 years ago, buddy.
One time.
It's been over 2 years
ago.
now.
That was my
The
mistake.
statute of
Now,
limitations passed on that, buddy.
now, no.
By the
Damn
way,
it.
Vern, I appreciate you tributing to Kembe Mutombo as you dunk on EJ Christian.
in peace,
Like
my
you
man.
rejected him and scored at the same time. You swatted that bitch so hard off the backboard and went all the way to the other fucking hoop.
So the big issues here, obviously, Ravens too high. Niners shouldn't be here. Buckets too high.
I also say
I don't necessarily think the Bucks are too high. I think the Falcons should be above them. And I think with the number 10 spot, because that was a question that was brought up, is I feel like there's, you as we've talked, or at least as I've said in years past when doing these, is like you have the top, two or three teams. You kind of have that middle pocket. And I feel like this year, like the ones that kind of make sense stop at about 7, 8, maybe 9. But like that number 10 spot right now, I felt like I had a hard time putting a team in there. And I feel like there could be one of like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 teams that could go into the number 10 spot. And I don't think any of them are that deserving. It's just the fact that we do the top 10 and the bottom 5. I think this so far this season, it would be a hell of a lot easier if we did top 5, bottom 10. Because there's I feel like there's more worse teams than there are good teams. But we're maybe starting to see some of the teams figure it out because no preseason.
These top 5 anyway.
I think that 10 spot, Jim, and if the main reason I don't put together a list is covering and fully writing and going balls to the wall Saturday and Sunday, and now I have to pull a top 10 out of my ass. Okay, that's the reason I don't do it, let's be honest. But in my mind, when I'm putting it together, the reason what I typically do with the 10 spot is use it for a team that deserves a reward, which I feel like a 500-yard dawning Falcons team deserves, and in the fact that they beat the Buccaneers, knocking them out just seems poetically too perfect this week.
That's fair. I mean, I have the Falcons higher, but let me bring up the graphic that has Mike and my rankings on them. We won't necessarily run over them all the way, but and I agree with Kyle's point about the 10 spot about teams being rewarded. Which is kind of why I did what I did at 10. If anybody wants to attack it, feel free.
I mean, how can I? I'm the one that said my lock would be Bo Nix continues the streak. So
all you got to do is Bo leave.
Like,
I'm gonna.
So for the podcast audience, I have the Broncos at 10. Do I think the Denver Broncos are the 10th best team in the National Football League currently? I do not. Part of the problem is, as I just kind of said, I don't know who the 10th best team in the National Football League is right now. But I look at this Denver team. They beat a Bucs team that I think is good. Maybe they're kind of struggling with their identity a little bit. They went into New York on a crappy day. I don't know what the New York Jets are, but they won on the road in New York. It was an ugly game, sloppy, rainy, crappy day. They found a way to win there. And the Raiders nobody's pretending the Raiders are a good team. But I feel like the Broncos in the last couple of years would have found ways to somehow lose that game and lose it in embarrassing fashion. And they kicked the shit out of the Raiders. So like I just feel like, you have a team that has a really good defense and an offense that is maybe slowly putting pieces together with a quarterback that, rookie quarterback that just doesn't know any better, I guess, right now. And there's not a lot of film on him. So he's able to work within his team's offense. So they will probably eventually come crashing back down to earth. But when I look at the teams I would have considered there, Denver, Green Bay, Seattle, Pittsburgh, Dallas, Chicago, none of those teams to me, I think would beat the Broncos this week personally.
I don't understand why we hate the Packers so much on this panel for those that are other than EJ. I need help. I'll grant they had a rough out to start the game against the Vikings, a team which you both have number one still for some reason. I'm not arguing with you again, Bern. But if we're to hold it true that they damn near came back in that game, regardless of whatever defense you do or don't like, that should still be held against that team. And then to continue winning, even though I know it was against the Rams, which they struggled, I don't understand. And by the way, winning games with Malik fucking Willis more than once at some point in this NFL season, I don't get why they aren't a top 10 team on all three of these panels. I can't grasp that.
I'll give my thoughts on the Packers. They beat the Titans and the Colts with Malik Willis, which look, Malik Willis ain't gonna scare anybody for a starting job, but the Colts and Titans aren't really going to scare teams for being a National Football League team right now. So like it's they won close against the Colts. They beat out a horrible Titans team that if it weren't for other teams just being worse, I would have the Titans pretty much at the bottom of mine.
But they get no balance for doing it with a backup quarterback. Is this what we're doing here?
Well, but my point is you have only beaten bad teams. And this week, again, you have your quarterback back, and I think to me, it's based on what the possibility and of expectation was. So you go into the playoffs last year, you throttle the Cowboys, you probably should have beaten the Niners until you folded in the second half. Credit to the Niners for adjusting and doing what they do. But then you signed Jordan Love to what at the time was the biggest contract, but then three other quarterbacks signed contracts. So there's a lot of hype and hope and talk around this Packers team. And 5 games in, granted, unforeseen injury in week 1, I'm just not seeing it. They can very quickly get back into it, whether it be it by them winning and or the Broncos, Buccaneers, Falcons losing. Like it's a very short window for them to get back in it to me. But that's why I just, and again, like when I said a minute ago, if I have the Broncos Packers this week, I'm probably picking the Broncos. That's why I have them above.
Wow. Okay. Well, so what you're giving me is essentially they're at number 11 defense. Is that it?
Sure. Like I don't like to extend it, but they are just. So to make a comparison to college football polls, they are others receiving votes.
So not 10B, not 10B, Jimmer.
Right. There's no 10B here because I'm not an asshole. But they are others receiving votes.
And well, if you were truly doing this like college football, they would be top 10 because they have a quality loss against the Vikings.
Mike and Jim, you guys weren't impressed with Kansas City's win on Monday night?
No.
I moved Kansas City up 1.
Oh, yeah, you have them 3 last week. That's right.
Yeah, remember he was a homer last week. That's right.
Right. Okay.
No, I mean, to be fair, I wasn't impressed with their win. I mean, we've talked about it on the show. that their defense is going to be what gets them there. I gave their defense all the credit in the world last week on this show as I went back and forth with student of the game Kyle Nash on why I didn't have them at number 1. The fact of the matter is I still don't think their offense has that many weapons. I don't think their offense is that great. They had an opportunity to put that game away, and a receiver that has to play primarily for the rest of the year, Juju Smith-Schuster, found a way to hand the ball to a guy who weighs 355 pounds in the end zone. This is going to be a problem. I get it. Travis Michael Kelce will do his job. Week 1 as being the number 1 and the only option they have, he showed out. All the credit in the world. But right now, I think the Minnesota Vikings are the more complete team. I think they're
the reason there's a reason why the lead is I'm not going to have the argument again because we're going to say the same shit, and you're
correct.
And for the second week in a row, you're going to disrespect Chris Jones, and that's unacceptable. Burn, do better.
No, I didn't disrespect him. I said I've said here on this show,
you said defense
every week.
You didn't say his name. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I also watched Derek Carr throw 3 footballs running backwards and chucking them over his head like Uncle Rico. But we're going to talk about how great the defense was. I mean, the guy is literally throwing up punts at this point, just trying to not die.
Right.
The Saints offensive line was not good on Monday night.
Yeah, it was the most complete the Chiefs have looked.
Correct. And here's
all
the
year,
thing.
if not for week 1.
And if the Minnesota Vikings would have lost, I wouldn't have flipped the Lions to 1. I would have put the Chiefs at 1, and I would have given them the respect that they earned. But the fact of the matter is the Minnesota Vikings did not lose a football game on Sunday or Monday or even Thursday. So at the end of the day, I still think that the Minnesota Vikings right now, top to bottom, because they have not been hit by the injury bug, are the best team in football. I do think that there are teams in the 11, 12, 13 range. Your Packers, your Broncos, I think those are teams that can make a run here in this situation, because there's going to come a time where the Commanders are allegedly going to fall back to earth. The Eagles may not be on this list if they lose another football game without all of their wide receivers. I have Perk Thuggins, the guy who this panel has said on countless times cannot win primetime games, cannot win postseason games. I'm the only one that's defended that guy, and I got him at 9 for that reason.
I wish I would have listened to you this week, Mike, because I would have won against my arch nemesis in a fantasy league if I would have had Perk Thuggins in my life.
Let's remember, Kirk Coupins is also the name you coined talking shit.
Correct.
Guy.
But I haven't hid from it. Perk Thuggins, baby. Let's go.
I'm not that mad at the Vikings.
It's a full disclosure thing. And yeah,
Right.
again, the Vikings thing, your best defense for the Vikings, you already said there, Burn. It's because it was against the pretender Saints. Though that being said, we're that impressed by a team that's so great they had to fire their coach. But go ahead.
But also too, when I look at like Vikings versus Chiefs, if we're talking about just those two teams in that grouping, is because of the injury issues and the inconsistency on the offensive side of the ball, sans Patrick Mahomes. I like the Vikings defense to be able to win that matchup, and keep the Chiefs off the board enough that the Vikings offense can go to work and get the job done and beat them. So again, if I have a team that it's a tight window between the two, I go, if these teams play this week, who would it be? I would pick the Vikings over the Chiefs this week. So they're still my number 1.
This is the first week that for myself, and I can only speak for myself here, that I'm looking at the Minnesota Vikings. They have the bye week, which is going to be big for them because Aaron Jones is hurt.
Yeah.
That was their first piece of the injury bug that's really hit them.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously TJ Hawkinson still being on the PUP list and all that stuff, but this was the first real in-season loss with the hip injury, and it's the hip that he hurt last year when he was in Green Bay. So it's, what are you going to get from guys like Ty Chandler and the rest of the running back room in Minnesota? This was going to be the test for Minnesota. They're going to play the team in 2 weeks that I have currently as the number 3 ranked team on my big board. So at the end of the day, the test for the Minnesota Vikings is on October 20th when they play the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
Hopefully for them, Aaron Jones is healthy.
Yeah.
So that they can go into it full strength, so that if they come out of it, maybe the talk isn't the Minnesota Vikings are pretenders. Maybe it's the Minnesota Vikings are a team that we need to talk about how they've finally done enough around whomever's playing the position of quarterback to keep them in contention.
Or How much was Kirk Cousins actually holding them back?
Well, how much did Justin Jefferson getting hurt the back half of last year really hold them back also?
No, I see your cape, but I think O'Connell's been there for more than one season, and I don't believe Jefferson was hurt 2 years ago.
No, he was healthy 2 years ago.
Yeah, I can't.
13 4 year. No, I'm not bothered by the Vikings. Number one, to be honest, I'm not bothered by it. The only thing I would say push back on is the fact that as bad as the Jets were on Sunday in London, they were literally the drive away from winning that game.
That's
as bad as they look. So,
and the Kansas City Chiefs have won 2 games.
No,
by a foot and by a fluke pass interference call. It happens. It's the National Football League.
And again, I'm not mad about like number one. I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, and London games can tend to get a little bit screwy too, because I can't remember if the field that they play at, if that is the grass field or a temporary turf field. You know, those games do kind of sometimes get a little funky as well. Again, travel, all of that. There's a lot of weird stuff that can go into those London games. So
anything, I was more bothered about the Chiefs at 3 last week with Jim, but he adjusted this week, obviously.
I'm still more bothered about the lack of Packers. I still think you have what is kind of a glaring contradiction in that the Vikings are so great, and the only loss on the Packers schedule is the team you have at number 1. But they played some bad teams and won.
Packers also lost to the Eagles, who aren't in my top 10.
Also due to an injury, by the way.
And same issue too with the field. The same excuse with the field issue was massive in Brazil.
But again, before we get too far down the road, and the part everybody keeps forgetting is winning those games with injuries. If we're going to hold injuries against teams so harshly, they need to be rewarded when they win with them. That's just my 2 cents.
I will say that if Malik Willis beat a team that isn't currently sitting 30th and 27th in my rankings, I would probably have a Packers a little bit higher on my list personally. I think the fact of the matter is they've beaten basically dog water. And I think at the end of the day, let Jordan Love get healthy. And I have no problem putting him on the list right now. But I will tell you that what I've seen from them is not NFC title game contending Green Bay. It's more of a survive, get right, and let's see what this looks like in a couple weeks. And then I think that's the real grading scale for the Green Bay Packers.
I mean, here's the deal with me and the Packers. In the next 4 weeks, they play the Texans and the Lions. Like if you can
get right,
you know what I mean? If you get right, you get healthy, you know, you win those games and the other 2, Jacksonville and Arizona, that you should win.
Frisky Cardinals.
Like, and here's the thing, even if you, like, let's say you lose a close one to Houston, but you win the other 2, so you go 2-1, you go in and you beat Detroit, you will be in my top 10 at that point. Like, so that they're close. Again, they probably would have been in there if I didn't reward the Broncos as well.
And then, and I get that. And by the way, to close the contradiction loop here, so everybody sees it clear as day, we're shitting on the Packers, but it was upon that win that the Vikings got that they were placed number 1 by multiple people on this panel. There's where I have the problem. It's one or the other, fellas.
I also told you that I also love the fact that the prevent defense made that Green Bay Packer game a lot closer than what it was. Because here, hold on. Hold on. Let me finish.
Vikings decision.
Hold on.
You're not going to let me finish. Because I'm going to bring this back to the conversation I had about the San Francisco 49ers, who decided to play 0 offense and are still somehow in the 8th spot in Ernest's power ranking.
Guilty as charged.
They played no offense. The Cardinals found a way to beat them because they kept playing shit prevent defense and throwing prayers up, but he has them at 8. At the end of the day, if we're going to use the grading scale and you're going to come at me because I sat here and I said that the Minnesota Vikings in the first half were a far superior team than the Green Bay Packers and decided to play the let's go home defense, then it has to go against teams a la San Francisco because they did the exact same thing and couldn't score. The same thing Minnesota couldn't do. They couldn't score in the second half.
I've been on EJ's case all season for how he's rewarded the 49ers. That's a good try. that means then still you have doubled down on the Vikings being too high.
No, I still, then I said it. I still think they're the most complete team in
Listen
the NFL.
back to the tape when it's done, buddy. You totally.
I can't remember where because I couldn't find my.
Well, it's clear that we all have.
Hold on. Where I had the Vikings in week 3, but I had them in 3 in week 4. So the Vikings for me have slowly been working their way to the top, and they've been there last week. So I personally, for me, I didn't take them from unranked to number 1 in 1 week. I'm not EJ Christian. I don't have the ability to jump that high. At my age, I'm smart enough to know my body's limits. It wasn't just because they beat the Packers that I put them at number 1. They've been moving up as they've been winning games and performing well, because they beat the 49ers, they beat the Packers, they've won these games against teams that are competitive or allegedly in the top 10,
or severely limited if you believe Mike's tirade.
Or
fucking both, fellas. It just
or it could be, let's penalize the Kansas City Chiefs for escaping.
Okay.
Yes. I can be just as loud.
No,
buddy.
This is not the right argument. The Chiefs have fucking nothing to do with this, guy.
Buddy, I can make whatever argument I want, my guy.
On the schedule. When do the Vikings play the Chiefs? When did that happen?
When did the Chiefs escape fucking Los Angeles and barely beat the Chargers after Mahomes had one of his worst games of his career? Maybe he should be penalized for it. Maybe we should stop putting him on this pedestal that he's the greatest of all time.
Right? That's the magic thing. Quantum rule. This is also a Marvel movie. What the shit are we doing? Answer the goddamn question. How can a number 1 team be number 1 when you're
because the number 2 team cannot fucking put away teams that they should? There's the answer that you don't want to hear. They're not as good as they used to be.
Can't put them away.
Team
they're undefeated.
So are the Vikings.
They've escaped, Kyle. They've escaped. Admit it. They've escaped. They've escaped 4 of their 5 wins.
And by the way, it's escape, not escape. For fuck's sake. So, I mean,
if we're really going to go about diction and tone of words, then we have another conversation to have, and we probably shouldn't be doing a podcast. Be very honest, because at the end of the day, they've escaped this, escape that. It doesn't matter.
Is it possible?
They're not as good as they used to be.
Is it possible though?
Putting them on
Hold on. Everybody shut up. Hold on. For me, the Minnesota Vikings, Kyle, have beaten the 49ers by 6. They throttled the Texans, who everybody would probably have in their top 5, and they are an undefeated team. Okay.
You say you cut the teams down and then you use it to lift the one up. That's where I struggle. I can only say it so many times. If you refuse to see it, I can't help you, fellas.
Okay. Who am I cutting? You're using the Packers against me.
No,
right?
It's the Niners who are then being held to task as they don't belong in the top 10 because they're so injured, yet missing players like they were against the Vikings. That's all cool in the game. I don't understand.
Okay. The reason the Niners aren't in my top 10 is because they're 2 and 3 and could very easily be 1 and 4.
He agrees with you.
Yeah, and I'm not mad. I'm not mad at the Vikings. I'm not mad at the Niners. Thank you. I'm all over the place. I'm not mad at the Niners not being in the top 10. Okay. But the Niners then, a not top 10 team who are injured, which we're supposed to hold against teams, are being used to propel the Vikings in both arguments.
Well, again, my argument for Vikings over Chiefs has to do with the fact that I'm looking at a Chiefs team that, was a toe away from potentially losing to the Ravens. Mm-hmm. They were, a 1-point victory against a Bengals team who has 1 victory. A close win over the Falcons, a close win over the injury riddled Los Angeles Chargers, and then their best effort was against a Saints team that apparently played their Super Bowl in week 2. So to me, it's about what the Chiefs haven't showed me yet.
Okay.
and what the Vikings have.
Can I add a quick?
No beating
Yes.
teams in the top 5.
Is there value in, because the Chiefs who they are, back-to-back Super Bowl champions, that there's value in they're getting everybody's best shot every week? Because
To me,
again, the
there's-
Chiefs are the Chiefs.
To
So you get-
me,
I mean, look, they play the Ravens, and their schedule, to be honest, they've had probably the hardest schedule in the league so far in 5 games. Ravens, number 3 in the list. Granted, again, they barely beat them, but yes. Who else they beat week 2? They beat
the Bengals.
The Bengals.
Then
which
they beat the Falcons,
Bengals still really- I don't-
Chargers, Saints. So they've beaten 2 teams in your top 10.
They beat one team that's sub 500.
The
That's way
Vikings have beaten 3 teams in your top
right,
10.
but and they beat one sub 500 team that's actually like better than the 1-4 record in my opinion. This defense is fucking terrible. In Joe Burrow. and the
Okay,
Bengals.
but
Joe Burrow and the Bengals.
okay, but
They still only have 1 win.
You're right. They
Agreed.
still
I'm-
have 1 win. But again, you know, if you're using the toughest schedule, the Vikings have beaten 3 teams in your top 10. The Chiefs have beaten 2 of them.
They beat Niners, Texans. Who was they beat again? Niners, Texans, and
Packers.
Packers. Right. No, again, I'm not me personally. I'm not mad at
like
right.
that. And here's the thing. Yes, I'm sure everybody wants to beat the Chiefs. But to me, I don't put stock in the Chiefs won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. I want to beat them.
2 years, no, 2 years in a row. That's 2 years ago. 2 years in a row. They're the defending
I
champions
understand that, but you're missing the point. There's no value in 2024 because the 2022 Chiefs were Super Bowl champions.
It's not the same team. I see what you're saying.
Like, you understand? Like it's not even the same team as last year. Like if you want to say, oh, cool, we beat the defending Super Bowl champions. Guess what? I went to a Phillies game earlier this year when the Phillies beat the defending world champion Texas Rangers. How did the Rangers do this year, EJ? Spoiler alert, they didn't go to the playoffs.
Right.
So and here's the thing. I'm not saying the Chiefs aren't going to make the playoffs, but we like putting value on a team's worth because of previous seasons. To me, again, this is me answering the question. I don't put that value. I am evaluating the 2024-2025 season and the first 5 weeks that we have been given.
Right.
in front of us.
All I'm saying is I believe there's some value to that when you're facing Andy Reid, when you're facing Patrick Mahomes, you're facing Chris Jones, and those guys. That's the core is still the same. Well, I mean,
I think everybody wants to win every week.
Agreed.
While I take your point of view, Jim, where EJ's right is it's different when you hit the field. I don't care who you are, even the water boy for, the damn Canadian team that's going to play them in a preseason. I know that's not real, but hear me out.
Sure.
We'll circle that game on the schedule. That's what everybody's best effort week in and week out means. Okay. I don't hold the same stock that EJ does in it. I'm kind of with you that it has
it's overrated.
It has value as a tiebreak, perhaps in the right scenario, but where he's coming from is that it's everybody every week, whether it's the AFC West or whoever it is going to play and do just a little bit more.
Okay.
That was fun.
Anything else? I'm afraid to ask.
No.
It sucks. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, if we're just pointing out
Hey,
facts,
Matt, you fall asleep?
Yeah, I'm there.
he's entertained by the show. All right. Whew, my goodness.
Eagles season's over.
Let's
I at least got Matt to smile.
well played.